And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we bring you coverage of the BackFire Sim Racing. The regular season is complete. The playoffs are just on the horizon, but in between the two, we're getting ready to go all-star racing under the lights here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Two heats to determine the 21 driver starting lineup for later on tonight. As I'm Seth Cole alongside of Matthew Rodriguez for the Raise Energy All-Star Race. Matt, these drivers here tonight, there's no points on the line, no championship on the line, but there is a cash prize on the line, and we know that when that's the case, drivers are going to race their guts out.
Absolutely, and the league admins definitely didn't make this easy. We don't want these drivers to kind of conserve and play around the heats. This race will be almost kind of an endurance type of race where you have to finish well in the heats and you have to finish well in the feature.
And to come down to an accumulation of points between those two, the heat and the feature. Now, the drivers just took to the track for a qualifying session that determined which of the two heats they're going to be taking part in. I believe we've got 12 drivers that are taking part in the first heat, 11 drivers will take part in the second heat, so it actually is 23 drivers that are scheduled to take the green flag here tonight in the All-Star race. 20 laps apiece in each one of these heats. There will be no cautions, we were told as well, during these heat races, so it's basically do or die. However, all drivers will transfer into the All-Star race. The All-Star race itself, though, is 100 laps. One thing we've seen here in practice, Matt, is a lot of cars getting really light off of the corner, and you touched on just how this particular track affects those tires. With a 100 lapper up ahead for these drivers, you were talking about kind of the conservative versus aggressive approach and how these drivers are going to have to balance that.
Absolutely. You really have two approaches here. You can really kind of, in these heats, you can go all out on the start, try to make up as many positions as possible, but as about the laps round down, about 5 laps left to go, you'll really be feeling the pain on those tires of really just pushing them for that first 15 laps. And you'll have to kind of fend off all the charges from guys behind you who may have been taking care of their tires a little bit better. On the flip side, you can take it a little bit easier on start, conserve your tires a little bit, try to drive up through the field near the end, but you're kind of losing that advantage since these cars are so restart based. Is that you really need to kind of take advantage of that restart to gain as many positions as possible to make your life so much easier.
Well, the fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying is your pole sitter for the first heat. That'll be DJ Daniel. He'll be alongside of Josh Anderson in row 1. Row 2 will find Christian Roos and TJ Roberts. James Cato will be alongside of Mark Morton, who's going to move up a spot, was going to be rolling off from 7th, and now will move up to 6th. It looks like Simon Morrison will not be taking part in this heat. Christopher Lawrence and Jonathan Leach, they'll be in row 4, with Chris Papa and Ryan Phillips in row 5. So it looks like we have a total of 10 drivers that will take the green flag here for this first heat. Now, another thing we didn't mention that we should is the drivers where they finish in this heat, they are then going to be inverted for where they would start the main event. So theoretically here in this first heat, whoever finishes last of these 10 drivers, they're theoretically going to be your pole sitter for the All-Star race.
I mean, think about it as almost like a last to first challenge where you kind of have to drive your way back up through the field and you have to recapture the same points that you would have ended up, I guess, gaining if you would have ended up winning this race.
So basically how it's going to come down is a choice of points versus track position for these drivers. It's going to be with 10 drivers taking the field or taking the green flag in this one. The race winner of this heat will get 10 points. Second place 9 on down to 10th place getting 1 point is DJ Daniel. The 3-time winner this season during the regular season pulls away by about 3 car lengths into turn 1.
And DJ Daniel's kind of been on it all season. He's been, I'd like to say, a little bit quiet as of late. He hasn't been really kind of flashing his speed around. But obviously with the playoffs starting, I expect him to really become a factor here in the next few weeks.
DJ Daniel with victories at Las Vegas, Darlington, and that's Anderson. And
nope, he got 14.
At the 14 of Christian Roos. No caution, however. Everybody's scattering on the front straightaway to try and avoid who got through, who did not. Looks like it's going to move Chris Papa up to second. He's going to think about going for, or battling with Mark Morton for second place. Papa started 9th of the 10 drivers that took the green.
I'm telling you, the one man that is loving this has to be DJ Daniel. I mean, pretty much all the pressure up behind has kind of been, I guess, taken out. I'd say, so really he can just put it on cruise control for the rest of his session and kind of just nurse his lead, not burn up his tires. Now, Christopher Papa and Mark Morton, those are kind of the guys that I'm looking at to really capitalize on this, where, again, Christopher Papa really didn't get a good qualifying effort, started back in the pack. You said it, started in 10th, worked his way all the way up to 2nd. He's probably going to have to fend off a charge from James Cato here in a minute.
I was going to mention just before that incident there with Josh Anderson and Christian Ruse that DJ Daniel, one of his 3 wins, came here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It was the Legacy Charlotte, but Charlotte nonetheless. He just saw 3rd place change hands. James Cato going up into the podium position. He's another driver that had a victory at a D-shaped 1.5 miles earlier on this season at Texas.
So just kind of still looking throughout the field here. Definitely see Josh Anderson, Christian Ruse, and TJ Roberts kind of got off to a really bad start. I still think that TJ Roberts, maybe with a kind of a little bit of misfortune of a few cars in front of him, he still has a shot to kind of claw his way back in. But I'm looking at Christian Ruse and Josh Anderson. I don't think they're really within good striking distance if anything happens.
There you see the 9 of Christopher Lawrence, our winner from last week at Daytona. Had been leading the point standings for a good portion of the year, but couldn't find victory lane. Finally ended the regular season with a trip to victory circle and subsequently get some nice bonus points heading into the playoffs. Just ahead of him is Ryan Phillips. Now, Ryan Phillips, there was a lot of question marks for us last week after Daytona because he and James Santoyo, they were tied for the final playoff position. Well, we found out the fallout from that. Both Phillips and Santoyo are into your 16-driver playoff grid this season, so both will battle for a championship next week.
I'm kind of hoping that scare of almost missing out on the playoffs kind of maybe would light a little bit of a fire under him, maybe get a little bit more harder on the wheel, kind of drive a little bit harder in the corner. Because, again, no one really wants to be just barely making into the playoffs, but hey, just because you're in, that does give you a shot at the end of the season to win this championship.
Absolutely, no doubt about that, as we are 6 laps now going on to lap 7 here in this heat. DJ Daniel has opened up now over 3.5 seconds back to this brewing battle for second place. James Cato might be the second fastest car on the track right now because he got around, as we saw earlier, for second place on Mark Morton, and he is going to work on Chris Papa.
Really, I don't know if James Cato is really pushing as hard as he could, but I think he's pushing just hard enough to really kind of get in the back of Christopher Papa and kind of push him a little bit harder, see if he's willing to kind of burn up his stuff a little bit more.
Now, the drivers that got involved in that incident off of turn 4, that did not bring out a caution, Christian Ruse, Josh Anderson, they continue on. They would make it into the main event, regardless of whether they finished in the garage area or on the racetrack. But I think maybe even if you've got a damaged machine, you want to be out there logging laps, because who knows, if you get some early damage in the 100 lapper, you might want to know what that car is going to feel like, how it's going to handle. Get you a little bit of a step up, I guess, on other drivers.
I mean, not only that, but I'm looking at this here and saying, hey, I mean, every point matters with it being a cumulative point system that really wins this race. I'm thinking, hey, even if I'm palling around in 10th, 9th at the moment, I am staying in it to the end because, hey, there is a potential where I will get 1 or 2 more points, and this race can really be lost on 1 or 2 points.
That is a great point there, absolutely, because, a lot of times when we see all-star races, it's just you've got the drivers that are locked in, they race it out for a certain number of laps, whoever takes the checkered flag, they're the winner. There's an overall winner here tonight dependent on the accumulative points between the heat races and where they finish in the main event. Now, there's actually also some stuff on the line here for these drivers when we get to the All-Star race as well. We mentioned the fact that this is a paid race. The top 3 finishers, the podium finishers, they will get a cash prize, but also Raise Energy here tonight, the sponsor of this All-Star race, they're going to be giving out some prizes to the drivers that finish 1st, 3rd, and 13th. And I've kind of been thinking in my head, how do you make sure you're finishing 13th if you're not going to finish up inside the top 10? How do you strategize for something like that? But I don't know, maybe these drivers will work something out.
Here's the thing. There's obviously, coming into this race, there's guys that know that, hey, maybe I won't be in contention for the win, but they're looking at those other prizes and kind of trying to figure out how best to position themselves in that range if, hey, the race doesn't fall your way. That's the thing where, hey, even if you're not in contention for the win, there's numerous positions all around the field where you can really finish in and still get a good prize out of it.
James Cato hooks the bottom, moves to second place, almost, not quite clear on Chris Papa. He'll try to clear him off of turn 2, and he's still not quite there. Papa's going to battle back on the top side, putting up a good fight there, as DJ Daniel up ahead, I believe, has just caught the 719 of Josh Anderson, about to put him a lap down. Cato finally clears for that second position. Anderson going to yield to the bottom for race leader DJ Daniel. You talked, Matt, about drivers that just barely made their way into the playoffs last week at Daytona, how they really, you kind of hope it lights a fire under them here as we head into the playoff schedule. What about here for this all-star race for drivers in terms of momentum? I know it's a non-points event, but if you're able to, win or at least get a top 5 finish, does that momentum carry into the playoffs?
Absolutely. Just something to get you kind of started out on the right foot where, yes, the playoffs are kind of locked in now. Nothing's really going to change for you, but I mean, going to Chicagoland's, I wouldn't say a Charlotte-like track, but it shares some similarities where I'm kind of looking at same thing with Homestead in Kentucky, where it's, hey, this is kind of going to set the tone for the rest of my 5 races here, trying to get to the championship. I want the best chance possible. I want the most confidence going in as possible. So, hey, if I'm DJ Daniel right now, I'm going out dominating this heat race. Listen, I'm gonna feeling great. I'm gonna be ready for Chicagoland.
Absolutely. A lot of mile-and-a-half tracks you just named off right there in the playoffs. And while they're not necessarily all alike, they are the same in terms of length. And so maybe someone that ends up doing really well at Chicagoland would be someone that would be looked at later on further down the line at those tracks, other tracks named off like Kentucky. At a battle for third, Mark Morton has reeled in Chris Papa. Now, I'm wondering here in the case of the 13, if this is what you were talking about, the possibility of using up those tires too early, not preserving them for the long run, because he seems to be dropping back.
Well, here's the thing. Obviously, kind of the qualifying position gives you a little bit of an indicator. I don't know if Christopher Papa's exactly comfortable with this track almost. Maybe he doesn't know to the greatest extent, but hey, when he was trying to conserve his second place spot, man, he was really running those tires, kind of running up high. And I'm going to tell you, if you're running up high, at least in iRacing, you're really not saving tires trying to battle out on the outside. So I think he's kind of almost like there, Mark Morton kind of getting loose off the corner. I think he's kind of have to relying on a lot of these guys having mistakes in front of him to get the positions back. And he's going to have to drive a little bit smart.
They're going to stay side by side. This time Papa on the bottom, Morton on the top. Outside line prevails, and Morton will take the third position. Closing on 3 laps to go, the 3 of James Cato, still over 3.5 seconds behind DJ Daniel. However, he is consistently running faster lap times than the 96. The last time by, he was actually 0.3 of a second quicker than the race leader, and so it kind of makes you wonder if he had had more laps, would he have been able to get up there, cut into this 3.5 second lead, and be able to win this heat. The thing that's interesting, though, these two cars, they're flying around the racetrack right now, but if they finish where they're at, yes, they're going to get some very good points for this heat, but they're going to be starting towards the rear of the field.
Got the wall, Martin spinning. Oh, actually, not spinning. He's going through the grass.
He saved it, brings it back up the racetrack. There is Lawrence entering into the picture in the 9 machine, and he's going to have to quickly make an evasive move to the top side. Morton saw him coming, moves out of the way. Now he's got a bit of breathing space, about 5 seconds, back to Jonathan Leach, so he can get himself back into a rhythm for these final 2.5 laps.
I'm kind of looking at the move from Christopher Papa, and I don't know if it was intentional. I mean, I wouldn't roll it out because obviously, again, it is an all-star race. You're going for prizes. It's nothing for points. And, hey, it is kind of a one-off event. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these guys run each other a little bit harder.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If you're especially a playoff contender, you don't want to be making any enemies heading into the playoffs. That could end up taking your championship hopes and having them go kaput. So those drivers have to be mindful of that incidents here in a non-points event could have repercussions further on down the line, as just a half lap to go here for DJ Daniel. He's going to wrap up a total of 10 points here in this heat, followed by James Cato and Chris Papa. He is going to subsequently start the rear of the field, but he's going to be your winner of heat number 1 here tonight in the All-Star race.
And that already puts him off on a great foot, maximum points that you can possibly get out of his heat race. And same thing for James Cato. I mean, I think if he had a better qualifying position, didn't have to check up so much of that kind of wreck in front of him, he would be so much better off. And Christopher Papa, that's just kind of an amazing charge all the way back from 9th.
On the flip side, Josh Anderson, the only driver to finish off the lead lap here in this heat, he will end up, I believe, being the pole sitter for the All-Star race. He doesn't gain a whole lot of points here in this heat race, but he will get good starting track position for the 100 lapper. Drivers now in the second heat get onto the front straightaway, as it will be Jaden Gimbel lining up on the pole for this one. Another 3-time winner this season will line up to his outside in Matthew Robinson, Kyle Gartner, and Jeffrey Vickery in that beautiful Wood Brothers throwback in row 2. Christopher Reese and Angel Santiago in rows 3. Row 4 finds Zachary Woods and David Modespaw. James Jones, who had a second place finish back at Texas, he'll be alongside of Gene Cato in row 5, and Clifford Corbeau will be starting in the final row, 11th place here for this heat race.
Absolutely. I'm just kind of looking through this field. I've got a few people off the top of my head that I'm kind of rooting for, but really who I'd love to see get this victory has to be Angel Santiago. I would not be surprised to see him kind of run through the field here, maybe shock a few people.
Santiago's locked into the playoffs, as is Matthew Robinson, Zachary Woods, also JC Jones, and I believe those are the drivers that are in this field that are locked into the playoffs. Yes, those are the drivers that are going to be competing for the championship. I don't know if I mentioned Kyle Gartner. If I didn't, I apologize. He also is a playoff contender this season as well. All these other drivers, obviously there's 5 races left. There's a big opportunity still for non-playoff drivers to be able to go to victory lane in the remaining 5 races, but as opposed to those races, do you think maybe an all-star win for those non-playoff drivers weighs a little bit more in the balance?
I think it's almost just kind of bragging rights and, hey, just something to kind of finish off your season right.
So Jaden Gimbel, who last time at Texas, I think it was a huge contender for that victory. We kind of thought he was going to possibly win that race on tire strategy, got involved with, I believe it was a lap machine on the back straightaway in the closing stages of that race, never recovered, finished behind the wall, if I recall correctly. So obviously very good at the 1.5 mile tracks. We'll see if he's going to be able to put on his dominating performance here in the second heat, as DJ Daniel did in the first heat. However, Daniel's teammate Robinson, both of them 3-time winners, would like to be able to make a statement against his teammate here in the second heat. So we'll see who on the front row gets the best jump. Remember, no cautions for this 20-lap heat, and we're underway.
Really a good start of that outside lane. I don't know if he kind of got that running a little bit more in Robinson.
And way up the track there, almost towards the wall, the 21 of Jeffrey Vickery. And whoa, someone's back there going around. Is that the 19? No, that's the 1. David Modespaw has hit the inside wall.
Looks like
and he's already teleported to pit road. Oh, Kyle Gartner off of turn 4. And they're wrecking. All of them are wrecking. Zach Woods. There's another car going through the grass.
And you saw how big it was for that first heat. That really is going to set a lot of these drivers back who's banking on getting a lot of good points here.
Zachary Woods, Kyle Gartner caught up. The blue machine you saw spinning through the grass, that was the 90 of Angel Santiago. So we're only 2 laps in. Already 4 drivers have found issues here in this second heat race.
And that's a huge killer. But looking at some of the drivers that kind of benefit out of that, definitely Christopher Reese is one of the guys who pop into my mind. All the way back, starting 5th place, managed to work his way up to 2nd. He's trying to chase down Gimbel.
All right, so this is the second time that we've seen drivers have issues in the early stages off of turn 4. It happened back in the first heat race as well. Is that cold tires?
I think it may be cold tires, and it may just be some of these guys just pushing a little bit too hard, a little bit too early.
I remember you mentioning when we were observing practice that there were a lot of drivers going into the corner that didn't have much off the throttle time, pretty much into the throttle for the entirety of the couple of corners. And that's kind of interesting when you consider that it's at Charlotte. A lot of people consider it a cookie cutter type track where it's the same on one as the other. And I can tell you from personal experience, no, that's not the case. Turns 1 and 2, I don't know what it is about it, but the car just really wants to bottom out in the center, wants to drift up towards the wall. 3 and 4, you're able to be pretty comfortable wide open. So these drivers have to be aware that it's 2 entirely different sections of the racetrack.
Well, I mean, with the new cars and with the new downforce packages, it's kind of masked some of the difficulties of Charlotte entering the corner where, remember, in the old Gen 6 car, you used to kind of have to lift early in the turn 1 or you'd risk just spinning the whole back end around into the wall. And that's been kind of resolved a lot more by this downforce package. But just seeing how some of these drivers kind of spin out of corners, spin coming in the corners, that definitely shows a lot more of the difficulties, and some of the challenges are still there.
All right, so let's say that you're a driver in this race and you have been involved in one of these early incidents, whether it be in the first heat or just now in the second heat. Do you keep something in the back of your mind for the 100 lapper to maybe be able to make sure that that doesn't happen again? What are the certain things you can do to make sure that that car doesn't step out of you early on in the All-Star race?
I mean, if I'm the guy who kind of been causing some of these incidents, I really was the one who kicked them off, I would be thinking, hey, I mean, obviously need to take it a bit more conservative. There's some of these incidents happen when some of these guys are on the high line. That means they've really been pushing into turn 3 and then kind of pushing up the track into the wall. So that's another kind of part where I'd be looking at. And if I'm someone who gets caught in some of these accidents, I'd be kind of reevaluating my strategy. Yes, I kind of want to go for it immediately, but obviously, hey, this going for it strategy puts me at risk. And if it's really happened up in the front of the pack that has collected the mid pack in it, so I'd be kind of looking to hang out near the rear, kind of bide my time a little bit, and if this does happen, find my way around.
This is fifth place battle. James Jones trying to hold off Gene Cato. And I have to wonder, too, if it might be the number of laps that changes the mentality of the driver as well. It's a 20-lap sprint, and there's no cautions in these heat races. So all these drivers would be basically on go from start to finish. You then say, well, you're getting ready for 100 laps. Then everybody seems to go into the mind of, all right, we got to preserve our stuff. We got to conserve our tires. And then it kind of seems to calm down. It's like someone flicked a switch. So I'm almost wondering if driver mentality might change when the All-Star race begins.
I mean, you got to think, the work that you do right now kind of lightens your load for later on. Hey, if you win your heat like DJ Daniel did, and almost like Jaden Gimbel is doing right now, hey, your kind of task for the All-Star race definitely goes down a lot more, so you don't have to worry about it too much.
Yeah, I wonder if
like, hey, you can. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were finished.
No, that means you can really run, hey, win the race, and if you don't really have any other competitors around, you can finish top 5, and you could probably still win this.
I was just going to mention, I wonder if this is going to put last heat winner DJ Daniel a little bit of a disadvantage. An uneven number of drivers in the All-Star race here tonight as Kyle Gartner was down the apron trying to get out of the way of Jaden Gimbel. So Jaden Gimbel right now, if he wins this heat, he's in line to get 11 points. Since there are 11 drivers in this heat, there were only 10 that took the green flag back in the first heat. So DJ Daniel would have only gotten 10 points. Jaden Gimbel would get 11 points. That gives him a 1-point advantage for the All-Star race.
Absolutely. It just means that DJ Daniel, even though he won his heat, he's already at a disadvantage. And that's something that he has to keep in the back of his head where, hey, if it comes down to a battle between the two, he always has to finish one position ahead of Jaden just to tie him.
Now, you talked about Christopher Reese working his way through the early mayhem to get up to second place. How about Clifford Corveau? Good run there for the 57. He started towards the rear of the field and now has worked his way up to fourth, closing in on the lap machine of Kyle Gartner.
So just looking at Gartner, I noticed that Gartner's been kind of running almost half power around the bottom of the track. Not sure how badly that damaged his car when he ended up getting in that crash. But obviously he's still hanging in there, and he kind of sees Zachary Woods behind him, and he's thinking, hey, I mean, it's 1 point is 1 point, and this could win the race.
Those two in a battle for 9th place position, both of them off the lead lap. David Modespa still sits on pit lane 12 laps down, so barring anything happening here in these final 8 laps.
Oh, like Angel Santiago about lost out of 4. He saves it down the front straightaway.
Santiago already dealing with damage that he sustained going through the infield with that wreck that took place out of turn 4 early on in this one. And so right now it is looking like David Modespa would end up being on the outside of the front row, finishing last here in this heat, should he stay in the position he's in, which looks like I don't even think that Kyle Gartner or Zachary Wood could lose enough laps to finish in 11th place. So it looks like Modespa would officially be on the outside of the front row for the 100 lapper. 6 laps away is Jaden Gimbel. He's almost kind of done a DJ Daniel from Heat 1. Daniel had that huge gap back to second place. The gap not quite as much, but it is still 2 seconds back to Christopher Reese.
Like I said, it's still there, but really Christopher Reese is just hanging on to see if Jaden Gimbel, hey, maybe just makes a mistake, because, again, it's possible where some of these guys in the last lap, they may get a little bit comfortable, may kind of slide out the rear end and kind of nailed the wall. And again, if Christopher Reese is running around here full speed, he still has a shot to get this win.
Here tonight, we've only got 2 of the 4 teammates, DJ Daniel and Matthew Robinson, the 96 and the 99. Brock Silvati and Jeremy Richmond not in the All-Star race here tonight, but we're still seeing how the team drivers have the different colors. DJ Daniel had orange on his 96 and a neon yellow on the Matthew Robinson 99 here this evening. Looks pretty cool under the lights.
Always appreciate the drivers that kind of take time to, like, here's the thing. Yes, your kind of your job is to go fast, but doesn't mean you don't have to look good by doing it.
Now, one thing that I was noticing here with the playoff system, and we'll touch on this obviously next week when we get to Chicagoland as well, they're not doing rounds to find out who goes into the final 12, who goes into the final 8, who goes into the final 4. 4 races will determine the final 4 for the season finale out of those 16 drivers. So I think that puts a lot more pressure on drivers, even more so than if you ended up having 3 rounds to determine who the final 4 are going to be, because you've got to have 4 solid races, and a lot of times drivers kind of rely on a mulligan race here and there in a playoff system. And
realistically, that's almost kind of made even kind of tighter with the fact that, yes, you're going Chicagoland. Chicagoland, hey, that's a kind of a speedway track. Everyone's generally good at there, but usually it's kind of pit strategies, misfallings, spins, accidents that really get you. Iowa is a tough track where if you're not prepared or you don't really have that endurance mindset, you can easily fall behind. Talladega, I mean, flip a coin, you'd probably be more lucky than winning a race there. Then you got Kentucky where you're trying to make up this maximum points. And again, that's another track where a lot of these guys are good at, but easy to get caught in an accident. And then, hey, it all boils down to homestead at the end of the season.
Speaking of points, you talked about every point mattering. They throw a blanket over 3rd back to 5th here as we are at less than 2 laps to go. Robinson, Clifford Corbeau, and Gene Cato trying to settle out the final spots inside of the top 5. As Cato going to dive to the inside of Corbeau, heading into turn 3. Pushes up. Yikes, that almost didn't work. They did make contact. However, Cato was able to back off. They keep it together. White flag has been taken by Jaden Gimbel. Just a couple more corners for him, and he will be picking up 11 valuable bonus points in this heat race. Subsequently, just like DJ Daniel, though, he'll be starting in the final row with the last to first challenge.
I'm telling you, that move that Cato attempted to pull on Corbeau, it may seem like a dirty move, but man, he is just trying to go for every point. Every single position makes your entire job this next feature so much easier.
Jaden Gimbel will take the checkered flag. Christopher Reese 2nd. Matthew Robinson, Clifford Corbeau, and Gene Cato will officially be the top 5 here in the 2nd heat. Jaden Gimbel with the bonus points here, the max bonus points of any driver between the 2 heats, but it's going to be a lot of fun here too to watch the 2 dominant cars of the night in the respective heats. Jaden Gimbel here in Heat 2, DJ Daniel in Heat 1 have to try and work their way through traffic in a 100-lapper.
And again, just makes it all that more difficult where, listen, just because you won the heat race doesn't mean you're going to get it handed a win for the All-Star race. You're going to have to work for it. And after seeing both those start wrecks in the heats, I'm especially kind of looking at this like, man, this is kind of dangerous. You can easily kind of ruin your race out of turn 2.
Folks, we're going to be stepping aside for a quick commercial break here. We will come back. We're going to interview not only our 2 heat winners, but we're also going to be talking with a few of the drivers that we may not be able to get insights from next week at Chicagoland that have advanced their way into the playoffs. So don't go anywhere. We will be back in just a moment. You're not going to miss a thing. We'll stay up and side by side as you'll get to observe these drivers taking to the track for a little bit of a warm-up session, preparing for the 100-lapper here tonight in the Raise Energy All-Star Race at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize, because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flatout Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flatout Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops.
We welcome you back here to Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Raise Energy All-Star Race for BackFire Sim Racing. Warm-up currently underway as these drivers setting down a couple of extra laps before preparing for the 100-lap main event. Had a little bit of a development go on here during that commercial break. We were in touch with Race Control, and apparently who we thought was the winner of Heat 1 is not the winner of Heat 1. DJ Daniel apparently jumped at the start at the beginning of the race, was black flagged, and subsequently will be scored last in Heat 1, giving the Heat win to James Cato. That's the bad news. The good news, though, Matt, is he gets to start on the pole for the main event.
I'd say it's not all bad news, but again, that's kind of bad in my opinion, because again, the heat was so vital of making sure you had enough padding where if you dominated the All-Star race and had a Heat 1 win, you were untouchable, where now it's, hey, you really kind of have to hope that Jaden Gimbel doesn't really get on your bumper because, again, he's going to outclass you in points.
Well, let's find out from the official winner of Heat 1 what his strategy is going to be, because with winning the first heat, he will be starting in the final row for the main event. Let's talk with James Cato. Hey, James, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us, man?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we heard officially you are the winner of Heat number 1. First off, congratulations, but now the true task begins. 100 laps between you and that checkered flag, and you've got the whole field to cut through.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I want to apologize. My voice has been in and out the last couple days, but it's going to be interesting. Going to have to keep my head on swivel. Hope to save some tire and be there at the end.
So I've got to ask a little. My apologies. I've got to ask a little bit, but since you're starting in the back of the field and you've seen those wrecks in 2 consecutive heats off of turn 4, I mean, you got a little bit of fear it's going to be the same thing in the feature?
Yes, sir. 100%.
Well, James, we know you're really good at the Mount Haas. We saw how strong your car was back at Texas. You looked good here under the lights at Charlotte. It'll be a lot of fun to watch you slice and dice your way through the field in that number 3. Best of luck to you.
Hey, thank you, guys.
And how about we see if we can talk with our winner of the second heat, if we have him here. There he is. See if we can talk with the driver of the 12, Jay Gimbel. Hey, Jay, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a moment to talk, buddy?
Yeah, what's up, guys?
All right. Well, your car looked really good here out in front, over 2 seconds back to second place. Congratulations on that Heat 2 victory, but we just talked with the Heat 1 winner, James Cato, asked him his strategy of cutting through the field. Do you have a strategy, or do you have to kind of play it by ear here with this 100 laps?
Basically, you're just going to try and ride around Cato for a while and try and stay clean with him. Hopefully, if I follow him, he can navigate kind of through it. Me and James, we've been racing here for 3 races in a row, and we've been talking to each other quite a bit off of the racetrack, and been really working together at getting better and just having a fun time out here. But tonight, this race is going to be interesting. All the fast cars are in the back, and all the slow cars are in the front. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
So I'll ask you almost an extension onto that question. I mean, obviously we've seen these past 2 heats that there's always been a wreck and out of turn 4 on lap 1. That kind of come to mind as a little bit of a worry for you starting on the back of the field?
Yeah, but I'll probably lay off a little bit at the beginning just so I stay away from that. But the cars end up getting really tight, so that little mess up that they have into 4, if their wheels squeal just a little bit, that's gonna just give an advantage to everyone in front of them, because the tire wear is so crucial here.
Well, Jay, best of luck to you. Going to be a lot of fun to see how you're going to be able to methodically make your way to the front. We know that car is fast. We'll see if you can get up there in clean air. Best of luck.
Thank you, guys. Have a good time out there.
All right, so you hear a little bit of worrying there in the voice of both of those drivers, realizing that they could end up being caught up in something with that lack of track position. And that's, as we said, the kind of risk reward for these drivers. Yes, they get themselves those really valuable points for a high finishing position in the heat, but then they find themselves back in the eye of the storm for 100 laps, and they could be a very long 100 laps if you have your car all torn up as soon as the first 5 laps of the race.
And I think it's just risk management where, listen, starting in the back of the field is never going to be an easy challenge, but it's a fact of, listen, a lot of incidents can happen with a lot of these slower cars starting in the front and a lot of these faster cars starting in the back. A lot of these guys have been making a mad dash to get up front as soon as possible, and that's where we're going to see a lot of these big incidents happen of, listen, just no patience, we're just going to push.
All right, so I understand it's a non-points event here tonight, but we talk about the drivers here that are fast. They're going to be starting at the back. I kind of have to wonder what the drivers that are starting up at the front are going to feel. I mean, I can say from personal experience in races that I've been in, I haven't felt comfortable being around the race leaders. I know that I'm a little bit slower than they are, and I feel obliged to move out of their way. There might be drivers in the field here tonight that are going to be starting up towards the front that under normal circumstances would not want to be up there. What have they got to be thinking, knowing that they're going to be leading the rest of the field to green?
I mean, there's realistically 2 mindsets. There's the kind of the guys who are a little bit worried, saying, listen, I shouldn't be up here. I don't think I'm fast enough. I got to kind of give way when these faster guys hit me. And then there's the other mindset of, I mean, listen, I'm up here for a reason. I'm here to win a race. So, I mean, you can go around me if you feel you're faster. And that's the thing where you're going to have to find a happy medium in between there. And that's where I think a lot of the maybe incidents might happen of just agreements of,
Saw the 21 of Jeffrey Vickery there moments ago coming to pit lane. We know that they won't be able to make it 100 laps on fuel. That is for certain. But is it being optimistic with the fact you think that that some of these drivers are thinking we may end up having a round of green flag pit stops?
Absolutely. I'd kind of leave that in the back of my head of, yes, it would be great if I'm leading the race, I'd love to see caution every time, but kind of a pit stop had to happen because that means I'd keep my lead 100%. But your head, hey, this race will eventually get kind of strung out later in the race if there's no cautions where, listen, I got to kind of practice and perfect that pit stop.
All right, so it looks like we are going to have our starting grid look like this. David Modespa will line up on the pole position. Simon Morrison is scheduled to roll off from second, but he did not take the green in his heat, so I believe it will be Kyle Gartner that will line up to his outside. Row 2 will be Josh Anderson and Zachary Woods. Row 3 will find DJ Daniel and Angel Santiago. Row 4 with TJ Roberts and Jeffrey Vickery. Row 5, Christian Roos and James Jones. Row 6, Ryan Phillips and Gene Cato. Row 7 is where we'll find Jonathan Leach and Clifford Corbeau. Row 8 with Mark Morton and Matthew Robinson. Row 9 will be Christopher Lawrence and Christopher Reese. 19th and 20th will be Chris Papa and our Heat 2 winner, Jaden Gimbel. And bringing up the rear of the field, rolling off from the 21st position, is going to be our Heat 1 winner, James Cato. Pace car pulls off on the front straightaway. All the drivers gridded on the front stretch just across the start-finish line will follow behind. So 100 laps here tonight. As mentioned, the top 3 finishers here this evening will receive a cash prize. The drivers that finish 1st, 3rd, and 13th will get an additional prize from Raise Energy. And of course, all these drivers here tonight as well, trying to not only say that they won the All-Star race this season, but there's about, I believe, 10 or 11 of our 16 playoff contenders in the field here tonight that are just trying to have some good mojo heading to the first playoff race at Chicagoland next week.
You gotta remember, a lot of these guys are here saying, listen, I don't know about my shot to win this race, but I'm here to have fun. And if that means sending it 3 wide when they don't know if they should send it 3 wide, I mean, listen, it's kind of a fun-off event. They're going to try here to see if they can win this.
So the pace car will be turning them loose momentarily. We had no cautions in the heat races. There will be cautions in this main event, however. And if that first heat race or that first and second heat races are any indication with how these drivers struggled with their race cars, we may be in for an early caution here tonight. We'll wait and see. Drivers' mentalities could change with it being 100 laps as David Modespa will get us underway, and the Raise Energy All-Star race is green.
Notice David really waited in that restart zone to go, and I think he did a really good job of trying to stop up Josh Anderson on that top side.
Look at DJ Daniel in the 96, dominated that first heat, but got black flag.
Oh, and the spin in the back, Matthew Robinson. No caution.
No yellow flag there. James Cato and Jaden Gimbel having to play avoidance there. Modespa's into the wall.
Spin.
Anderson is spinning. That's going to be a caution, and that's going to be a big wreck there out of turn 4. Christopher Lawrence has hit the wall hard. He's also collected up Jonathan Leach. Christian Ruse is involved. I see Mark Morton in the 52 back there as well.
I'm going to tell you, I just saw the 2 smartest people on this racetrack had to be James Cato and Jaden Gimbel. They just stopped out of turn 4 and just said, I'll wait for this to sort it out.
They pulled the Dale Jr. from Daytona. Just wait until the dust settles and then work your way through. Josh Anderson has already taken his car to the garage area, as he was the one that snapped loose there through the middle of 3 and 4. Jonathan Leach, some damage there on the left rear quarter panel of his machine. Christopher Lawrence, I know, hit it pretty hard nose first into that inside wall just towards pit road entry, and there may be a couple of others that we didn't document as well. You kind of wonder if that was a blessing in disguise, that spin off of turn 2 for Matthew Robinson, because that would have been right around where he was running where that wreck broke out.
True, but you never want to have kind of misfortune be the reason you're still in it. And it's great and all, but I noticed that it looks like Josh Anderson really just lost around the middle of the corner. I don't know if he got spooked with Modespa kind of hitting the wall there out of 3 and 4, but man, it just really over-rotated. And I'm going to tell you, TJ tried the best he could to stay off him, but just unfortunately couldn't slow up that much. And once he was around, and just kind of a pinball for the rest of the field. Don't know who that was who just took down the pit wall.
Find out. We're first going to take a look at the incident involving Matthew Robinson off of turn 2. Then we'll jump up to that big wreck there off of turn 4. Chris Papa in the 13. Oh, I thought maybe he might have gotten the 99 from behind, but no, Robinson just got flat loose as he was behind the 57 of Clifford Corbeau, and that's a pretty hard hit there with the right front of his machine.
Yeah, I think that was just being over-aggressive on cold tires. I mean, obviously, yes, the guy in front of you is a bit slow, but you really can't be jerking the car like that in turn 1 when you're already kind of at a loss for grip.
And we kind of saw the tail end of what happened to Josh Anderson. We'll look at it again. And I think you're right. I think it was partially in reaction to seeing the one of Modespa up into the wall. And as soon as that thing went sideways, I mean, he just could not get it pointed the right direction. There you saw Lawrence, Christian Ruse, Mark Morton, as well as Jonathan Leach, all collected up in there with some damage.
If I'm correct, Seth, this is the second time this race that Josh Anderson's kind of day has been ended out of turn 4, and I can't imagine he's too pleased about that.
Well, we got a moment here. We're still under caution. I want to go back and see what happened to the 21 of Jeffrey Vickery, because he is sitting on pit road without a front end.
So what happened to Jeffrey Vickery
Oh!
is he kind of went in like a lawn dart to the pit wall.
You're
Tried his
talking about
best to try
someone
and hit
knocking down the
brakes.
wall.
Yeah, tried his best to hit the brakes, but just couldn't time. See, that's a time where I think I'd kind of let off the gas and it's into the inside wall. I guess it's better than becoming a member of the barrels, but I saw Jonathan Leach kind of slide by there.
You see right there.
He almost hit the barrels too.
Yeah, he did. And the tough thing there for Vickery is not only does he have that front end damage, but you saw him trying to rev the car in reverse to get out of there, and he was actually stuck. He could not move. And so that required him to have to call a tow to pit road. That's why he's been sitting in his pit stall for over 3 minutes.
I'm going to tell you, every driver who's ended up hitting that inside barrier always questions why in the world did they put this here. All could have had cars come right back up into the field and kind of take out a bunch of more cars, or thinking that inside wall, saying, "Man, I'm so happy that's there."
So right now, it looks like Anderson will not reach the conclusion. Jeffrey Vickery more than likely will not reach the conclusion as he still sits on pit road. A couple more drivers coming down pit lane, getting some more damage repair done. Christian Ruse in the 14, Jonathan Leach in the 48. DJ Daniel is going to get us back underway when we get the one to green, which should be this time, courtesy of the iRacing pace car. David Modespa will be second. TJ Roberts, Zachary Woods, and Kyle Gartner right now are scored your top 5. The drivers that started towards the back, James Cato is up to 17th. Jaden Gimbel, however, did a pretty good job of cutting his way through all of the mayhem. He moved from 20th up to 13th for this restart.
Trying to see. Obviously, you've got Cato and Gimbel still hanging back there, but I'm kind of looking at the front of the field, and I think DJ Daniels kind of got an uphill battle. He's going to be trying to do the same thing he did in Heat 1, just minus the jump start.
Daniel definitely has a strong race car. He proved that back in the first heat. And I think he has to put on a dominating performance here just based on the fact that he is going to only have 1 point to build off with having the disqualification, the black flag, back in that first heat. So he's going to have to try and really accumulate points here against drivers like James Cato, who got the max points with the Heat 1 win.
I think he just needs to really hope for a lot of misfortune on the good finishers' end through those heats, and a lot of kind of fortune for him to kind of lead a lot of laps and see maybe if he can put more of his contenders back farther.
It's going to make the left-hand turn to pit road. We will be back under the green flag on lap 6 of 100. Still a long ways to go, as already we've got quite a number of drivers towards the rear of the field that are torn up. Probably going to have more by the end of the night. Jeffrey Vickery did return back to the track. He is going to line up behind everybody there, albeit 2 laps down. Green flag flies. David Modespa got himself a pretty decent jump. He'll be alongside of DJ Daniel heading into turn 1.
Yeah, I saw TJ Roberts on that inside. Looked like he wanted to do the same thing that Modespa was doing, but just couldn't anticipate when DJ was going. But looks like he's got some speed now.
See if they can all make it off of turn 2, somewhat spread out, and indeed they will. Ryan Phillips back there in the 43, making a nice move on Angel Santiago. We got the 11 on the apron. And now the 49 is spinning into the 43. We're going to have another big wreck off of turn 4. The 12 is spinning down pit road.
That may have been a blessing in disguise almost.
Yeah, I agree. He didn't hit the wall. Gartner's on pit lane now. There's the 11 of Roberts hitting his pit stall. We had about 4 or 5 drivers collected up in that one. The hits were not nearly as violent as we saw back during the first caution, but a caution nonetheless, as the 12 just going to pass right down through pit lane. It's like the driver that may have taken the biggest hit out of that one was the 49.
I was kind of looking at that instant. The 12 of Gimbel was kind of stuck on that inside line, and he did get sent a little bit by trying to figure out what car it was. Looks like the 00, at least on my screen, but I don't think that is correct.
See the 90 of Angel Santiago getting into the 49 there.
Yeah, it looks like the 12 was sent by for guys, because if you look ahead of him, the entire inside line was just kind of stacked up with cars, and I don't know if there would have been really anywhere for him to go.
TJ Roberts has now taken his car to the garage area. he was in trouble even before entering into turn 3. Watch right here, turns the car left, and it just never stops turning left down onto the apron. And I don't know if there was contact between Kyle Gartner and Angel Santiago or not, but the 49 definitely got loose on the top side. And then we're going to look at the blessing in disguise, as you called it there, for the 12 of Jaden Gimbel. Could have easily been directed down towards that pit wall that we saw Jeffrey Vickery get caught in earlier, but he pretty much pulled off the field goal there, right between the two walls, directly down pit road.
I think that's exactly what the 21 of Vickery wanted to have happen, but I think Gimbel may have done it a little bit better.
And again, remember, Gimbel was the winner of the second heat. That's why he started towards the rear of the field. And I mean, talk about a challenge to make your way through not one, but now two pretty big multi-car wrecks here in the first 10 laps of this race. So far, James Cato is a perfect 2 for 2 in getting through, but Jeffrey Vickery right now is batting .500.
And that's the thing where Vickery was kind of that unfortunate kind of soul in the first accident where he just really was nowhere to go and he just ended up locking up the tires and went straight into the barrier. But I saw him on that restart and he did not look fast. So I'm wondering how damaged that car really is.
Well, he at least is going to get the lucky dog under this caution. He'll get one of his 2 laps back. It's like Kyle Gartner has returned back to the racetrack. He was 2 laps down, though, leaving. And as mentioned, TJ Robertson, Josh Anderson, they are going to call it a night early. They'll finish 20th and 21st. DJ Daniel pacing the field here tonight as we are about to reach the 10th lap of this race. Second caution of the night here in the Raise Energy All-Star Race for BackFire Sim Racing. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break and be back for the green flag here tonight at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flatout Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble?
Second restart of the night here in the Raise Energy All-Star Race. Here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, DJ Daniel and Zachary Woods going to get us back under the green flag. Lap 11 going to go up on the board. A rather stacked up start there. You had the second row into the back bumper of the first row at the start-finish line.
Yeah, I was looking more around the back end, and I saw the 14 and the 12 kind of side by side for a 3-wide restart. Not exactly sure the reason for that one.
See if these drivers can get themselves into a long green flag run. 2 early cautions here and a lot of torn up machines. You got to go back to around the 15th position where you find drivers that, for the most part, have their cars still in one piece. 2 drivers already out of this event as DJ Daniel going to clear for the top position here over Zachary Woods. Battle going to be for 4th place. That's where James C. Jones and Gene Cato are going to battle. These two were battling each other pretty hard back in the second heat as well.
Still looking. Carpet, I don't exactly know why he kind of let off so much as Mark Morton. He's all the way back here in 16th. I saw him on the restart, kind of on the back straightaway, pull off to the inside. Not really sure what happened there.
I'm not certain either, unless he feels that car might not be fully up to speed, as Zachary Woods almost had a moment off of turn 4. James Jones crosses him over. He'll move into second. Oh, hang on to it, Gene Cato. He got loose on the inside of turn 1. A lot of drivers really having difficulty with the back end one to come around on them early in this one.
I'm going to tell you, someone who just has not looked comfortable in their car at all has to be Jonathan Leach. I've seen him just kind of jerking the car back and forth so much, just almost like it has no rear end grip in it.
So the thing I'm trying to figure out is what is causing this loose sensation? Is it the fact that the tires are cold? Is it the fact of the setup? Is the fact we're under nighttime conditions maybe, the cooler track conditions? And the other thing I'm wondering is, if we go into a long enough run where the tires heat up, would that loose condition get better or would it only get worse?
I'm really wondering if it may just be overconfidence. I mean, really, with this setup like we saw in practice, you could really take it almost all flat out. I wonder if really just the overconfidence of, hey, this car could have went flat out in practice, but now, hey, the tires are a bit worn. We're still trying to do the same thing, and there's just not enough rear end grip.
See Chris Papa there in the 13 machine.
Oh, Leach!
Nice save. Wow. Completely fishtailing almost halfway down the back straightaway. That brings Ryan Phillips around him for 8th place as 13 of Chris Papa now is moved by Santiago. Move him up into the top 5. He now sets his sights on Matthew Robinson. Now, as mentioned here tonight, the drivers that finished 1st, 3rd, and 13th get a special prize courtesy of Raise Energy, and that is the 13 that Chris Papa drives, and we end up getting notified that there's a promotion actually going on with Raise Energy here tonight, Matt.
Absolutely, and was informed at least a little bit in the heats that Christopher Papa is a brand ambassador for Raise. He's part of 1-3 Speed, so he was deciding to, or at least they decided to do a prize for 1st, 3rd, and 13th. For anyone who would like to buy Raise Energy, go to repsports.com, REPP sports.com, and use the coupon code ONE3, so 13 for 15% off.
Right now, solid outing there for Chris Papa in that 13 machine. We're going to drop back here to just inside of the top 10 because this is where the best battling is going on right now. Ryan Phillips, Jonathan Leach, Christopher Reese, who finished, I believe, 2nd in the second heat race. I'm sorry, actually he finished 3rd in the first heat race. And also James Cato in this mix. He has finally worked his way up towards the top 10. I believe that's also the lap machine of Christopher Lawrence there, our winner from Daytona, in the mix.
Kind of looking through here, Gimbal has kind of really worked his way back up to 8th. He's kind of been on the move, but one guy I've seen kind of been mired back in the pack has to be James Cato. He just has not seemed like he's had the same speed.
The thing that we know, if we observed what he was able to do back in the first heat race when he subsequently finished 2nd, but as we found out was the eventual winner of the heat, he was a lot faster as the run went on. So if we get ourselves into a long green flag run, watch for that 3 machine to start cutting his way through the field and making his way up into the top 10, maybe the top 5 within the next 15, 20 laps.
Absolutely. I'm just looking still here throughout the field. Christopher Papa is someone I've been kind of seeing hang tough, and I really think he could be kind of a threat for this race now. Obviously, with that strong 3rd place finish in the heat, and really with him running up here around the top 5, I mean, that opened a lot of abilities for him to kind of point his way over someone like Jaden Gimbal and James Cato.
Yeah, remember we were kind of worried about Chris Papa back in that first heat where he was up, I believe it was in 2nd place. Next time we looked, he had dropped back to 4th, and we wondered if he was someone that might have used up his tires too early. Right now, being able to still hold on inside of the top 5. Another driver that looks a little bit better than he did in the early stages of this main event is the 60 of Zachary Woods. I mean, that car was all out of shape out of turn 4 several laps consecutively, and, well, I think I just jinxed him because he just knocked down the safer barrier out of turn 4.
Yeah, there's been a lot of these guys who just have not been confident in their car, and he's kind of went on those short lifts of them. Another guy, I mean, if you look throughout the field right now, there's so many guys with just the right side just beating down on this car, and it's not out of choice, trust me. It's just out of the fact that just the rear end of his car just seems to have no grip out of his corners.
Looks like we've got another retiree out of the race, and it's going to be 3-time winner Matthew Robinson. Just brought his car down pit lane, made the left-hand turn to the garage, so he will not be the winner here tonight in the All-Star race. Obviously, he and DJ Daniel being the only multi-time winners on the season so far, certainly were two of the favorites coming in. Right now, DJ Daniel pacing the field about a 2 3/10 over the 13 of James C. Jones. Three-way battle back here, though, for the 4th position. Gene Cato on the move.
Absolutely. Just kind of looking at Gene Cato, I don't know if he's kind of lost some grip on the bottom side, but he's looked fast, but it just doesn't look as fast as it was before.
And that inside line, especially when the tires heat up, it's going to take a driver a lot longer to get back to the throttle. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it Gene Cato that made a move in the closing stages of the second heat and almost wrecked the driver he was under because he slid up about a groove and a half higher than where he entered? So that might be something these drivers have to consider here, of maybe trying to trap a car on the inside line, pass them around the top side. That might be the more stable and the faster way around the track here tonight.
That's a very delicate maneuver, though. I mean, the guy on the inside, all he has to do is just get a bit frustrated with you. And again, this is a non-points race. I'd be more than happy to kind of drive a little bit up the hill and say, hey, give me a little bit more room down here.
Cato going to go around the outside of Chris Papa for the 5th position. There's the aforementioned Jaden Gimbel, now up to 7th, and just behind him by about half a second is James Cato. So it only took about 25 laps for our 2 heat winners to make their way up into the top 10. And right now, based off their lap times, they are running faster than the 5 drivers currently ahead of them for position.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking back at Modspot here. Modspot is just kind of falling off a cliff.
We know that he has some damage on the right side of his machine, getting up into the wall for an extended period of time. One thing I'm noticing here, and you can probably touch on this, is a lot of drivers, and I understand the philosophy, they're going right up against that outside wall heading into turn 1. Angel Santiago has actually been one of the drivers that has religiously gone almost literally to the wall heading into the first corner, which allows you to be able to arc it deeper into turn 1, giving you more speed. The thing I'm seeing, though, is sparks flying off of that right rear quarter panel. Is that going to damage that panel enough that it's going to affect you for the remainder of the run, or is it kind of just cosmetic damage that doesn't affect you at all?
Eventually, as you keep right on that right side and keep riding the wall with it, it eventually will end up damaging the car a lot and kind of affecting the aero. But right now, just kind of brushes here and there, doesn't really matter. But if he keeps leaning on it, I would expect a lot more damage.
Remember when we talked about DJ Daniel back in the first heat, we were talking a gap upwards of 3.5 seconds. Now, while the gap is slowly continuing to increase, it's not nearly as rapidly as we saw back in the heat race. It's right now about 2.7 seconds from DJ Daniel back to James Jones. Is the 96 maybe holding back a little bit here, knowing that it's a longer race and he's trying to pace himself as opposed to a 20-lap sprint that he was in that first heat?
Easily. It's the thing of, hey, don't burn up your stuff right now if you don't have to. And really, if someone's willing to burn his stuff up to get all the way to DJ Daniel, that's what he's really looking for. If, hey, someone's willing to burn up their tires just to reach the back bumper, then DJ Daniel can really just turn on the gas and just say, all right, well, I got all my stuff still left and got to drive away.
Battle for the 10th position, Jonathan Leach in the 48, Ryan Phillips in the 11, Mark Morton looking on, as well as the lap machine of Christopher Lawrence, the 57 of Clifford Corbeau in that mix as well. Right now, Clifford Corbeau in the 13th position. Should the race end now, he'd be one of the 3 drivers to receive a prize courtesy of Raise Energy. Right now, DJ Daniel and Angel Santiago hold the other 2 positions, 1st and 3rd, that would be getting those prizes. And of course, as we mentioned as well, the top 3 get a cash prize at the end of the night.
Sorry, Brett. Mark Morton hit the wall and almost came down, took out both him, Clifford Corbeau, and Christopher Lawrence there on the bottom. They all got it back together, still going straight.
We got ourselves a really close battle up here now. Zachary Woods, James Cato, and Jaden Gimble. I believe Gimble just made the pass for 4th place on the 60. And here come the 2 Catos behind. James in the 3, Gene in the 2.
Now I'm seeing a few of these guys that I'm kind of looking at. Has to be Ryan Phillips and Mark Morton. They just do not look comfortable in their cars right now. They just look so slick on kind of entering and exiting the corners.
Even seeing some of these guys up here that are making a forward march to the front are still dealing with the slight slidey sensation, if you will, off of the corner. James Cato right there looked like the back end wanted to step out on him as he tries to work to the inside of fellow Toyota Camry Zachary Woods.
So it looks like some of these guys, at least in the turn 4, are having to take it so gingerly that they're really not making any time on that bottom, really just losing a bunch. And it doesn't seem like that issue really is present in turn 1 and 2, but just 3 and 4 seems to catch a lot of these drivers so off guard.
So what really worries me right now is we are finally settled into a long green flag run here. If we continue down this path, these drivers will have to start thinking about coming down pit road. Now, I know that the 12 of Jaden Gimble got bumped from behind by Christopher Lawrence when he spun down pit road, and I know that the 21 of Jeffrey Vickery, he was trying to avoid a wreck, but just based on the fact that I saw cars coming down towards the pit lane entry and the back end snapping around on them, I gotta wonder how comfortable these drivers are going to be trying to get these machines off the banking onto a very flat apron without the back end coming around, because as we saw in the case of Vickery, that pit wall, it holds no prisoners if you hit it.
Absolutely, and I've been kind of a victim of that one before. Just coming off that high lane, you really have to slow down just enough and be ready. If your back end really starts to slide out, you have to be ready to catch it. And a lot of these drivers, I think that might catch them off guard, just judging how turn 4 is went.
Battle for second is now over. Angel Santiago makes his way around 13 of James Jones, looking back to that brightly colored Toyota Camry, who now slots into the 3rd position. And then you're going to see just above his roof, yep, that's Jaden Gimble, who started shotgun on the field. James Cato, who started in the final row with him. They're now up to 4th and 5th.
It's nice to see, but right now, Jaden Gimble has a little bit of damage on that rear end. I've just kind of crinkled the spoiler just a little bit. That is most likely affecting downforce just a pinch, but doesn't seem to be affecting his speed that much.
Now, Jaden Gimble was not in the heat that DJ Daniel was. James Cato was in the first heat race, but he started a little bit further back in the field, had to work his way through traffic before eventually getting up to 2nd place. So we really don't know how the 12 and the 3 stack up to the 96. If they're able to get themselves up there to 2nd and 3rd, it'll be interesting to compare lap times here during the course of this run, see if they can eat into DJ Daniel's race lead, because remember, Daniel has spent most of this run out in clean air. Jaden Gimble and James Cato, they've actually had to cut their way through traffic, so they've been using up more of their stuff, more importantly, their tires.
Absolutely. And right now, I'm just kind of running the math here a little bit. And obviously, for DJ Daniel to really kind of win this race at the moment, both of his competitors kind of need to finish at least 11 to 12 spots away from him just to have a shot at winning this. So I think he's kind of sitting here crossing his fingers a little bit, and misfortune may hit him.
But if you're in the case of James Cato, we talked about that only 10 drivers took the green in the first heat, 11 drivers in the second heat. So Jaden Gimble winning heat number 2 would have a 1-point advantage over whoever the heat 1 winner was, who we eventually found out was the 3. So James Cato has to finish, 2 positions ahead of Jaden Gimble here in this main event in order to have the overall points lead, if you will, to win this event here tonight.
That's the thing. I'm not exactly sure what happens if more or less if a tie happens, but it kind of lies in the back of your head that, hey, you kind of want to be ahead of that other guy as much as possible. But for someone like a DJ Daniels situation, it doesn't matter if you win this race here at the moment, you're going to need some outside help.
And folks, we will be giving you the unofficial, who we assume the winner is at the end of this race. We will get the official word from Race Control here tonight and be able to notify you who the winner is here at Charlotte. If you're just joining us, you're watching the All-Star Race, the Raise Energy All-Star Race for BackFire Sim Racing. It's if you will, the off week between the regular season and the playoffs. Playoffs begin next week. The 16 drivers have locked themselves in, and it all begins at Chicagoland Speedway next Friday night. Here tonight, these drivers are out there for a cash prize and 3 prizes courtesy of Raise Energy, and we had 2 chaotic heats to start this one, 2 early cautions with multi-car incidents in the first 10 laps. Since then, we've settled into a long green flag run here, but yes, this is a non-points event map, but it's still Charlotte, still a 1.5 mile track. I'm fully expecting we're going to have ourselves an untimely caution at some point and some late race restarts.
And that's the thing where you don't want to be caught as a person who's entering pit road or just exiting pit road as soon as a caution comes out. I mean, it's again, you kind of want to have that caution save you a little bit. And I think a lot of drivers are kind of keeping in the back of their mind. We saw that in another broadcast earlier this week in Dark Horse IndyCar Series at Michigan, where a caution really just changed the outcome of the race and really derailed so many pit strategies.
Looking right now, in terms of the lap times, fastest car on the track, you're looking at him. James Cato, last time by, 31.6 for DJ Daniel, 31.4s for Santiago and Gimbal, but Cato ran a 31.3. This time by, he's going to be, it looks like, the second fastest of the top 5 in terms of lap times, and in terms of consistent lap times, he is running the fastest consistent lap times, albeit back in that 4th position. So if you're the 3, and you're currently running over 5 seconds behind DJ Daniel, what can you do with the upcoming green flag pit stop to gain even more track time?
Realistically, I'd be thinking undercut here. The undercut, I'm thinking it could be strong if you play it right. And again, I'd be starting to think, hey, what kind of tires can I take? Now I'm thinking, hey, if I'm feeling brave, maybe I can take a half tank, maybe I can take 2 tires, see if I can get out earlier. But again, that kind of affects your later on strategy. So a lot of these drivers got that to think about.
Talked about drivers trying to make a statement here tonight heading into the playoffs. Interestingly enough, only 4 of our top 10 are in the playoffs next week. DJ Daniel, your race leader, Angel Santiago in 2nd, Zachary, actually correction, I should amend that, 5 of our top 10 are in the playoffs. You also add in James Jones in 5th, Zachary Woods in 6th, and Ryan Phillips in the 10th position. We saw just moments ago, though, Ryan Phillips got into the wall off of turn 4 pretty good, lost a couple of spots to Christopher Reese and Jonathan Leach. Still hanging on to that spot, though, is 14 drivers on the lead lap of 18 drivers still out on the racetrack.
Absolutely. It's actually kind of nice to see some of these guys who are farther back in the field that may have not had the greatest event of the race. It has to be Kyle Gartner, Jeffrey Vicky, Christopher Lawrence, Papa. I mean, some of these guys just still hanging in there.
Yeah, just noticed the 13 of Christopher Pop is actually off the lead lap. He undercut me. I didn't even see him. He was on pit road 9 laps ago.
Actually, I didn't even notice that either. But again, that's kind of what I'm talking about, where that undercut is strong, and he's currently got some fresh tires here. I don't know if he's going to run the tires this aggressively, but again, you got to think here. The undercut is strong. When everyone kind of comes in the pit, you're going to be the one who has a slight advantage if you've done it right.
He is passing drivers right there inside of the top 10. Woods in 6th, Gene Cato in 7th. He is a lap down, but in terms of lap times right now, he is running anywhere from 3.
And still going back to look here, obviously got DJ Daniel kind of leading the field here at the moment. The biggest question is, when is he going to come in the pit? Now, obviously, kind of looking at the field, you have kind of Christopher Papa, who's partially forced his hand a little bit. Now, I don't really know if he's forced it that much, but again, that kind of has to be a thought in his mind where he's got the freshest tires in the field, but I think he may try to make it to at least about lap 50. Lap 50 may be their mark to kind of make it in for the rest of the race, so it kind of depends. Looks like we may have another taker on pit road. Actually, no, it looks like he came out. There's a whole gaggle of cars around the top 8, round of Christopher Reese, Gene Cato, and Zachary Woods. Looks like none of these guys... Actually, I may take that back. Looks like Christopher Reese may be on new tires here.
No, looks like Christopher Reese is...
Oh.
Well, put it this way. He theoretically is. He's got 8 lap fresher tires than everybody else as the race leaders now win. So I don't know if necessarily those 8-lap fresher tires play into anything based on the fact that they're 41
DJ
laps
Daniels
old.
on pit road.
From the race lead, hitting pit lane at the halfway point of this race, which this is his first pit stop of the day, albeit he had 2 cautions to work with early on in this thing, but I almost wonder if maybe these drivers can make it the rest of the way, the final 50 laps.
I think DJ Daniels' really kind of actions are telling that, hey, he wanted to pit exactly at lap 50, where I think he may be able to make it all the way to the end, although he may have been able to make it to that point with some 8 of the caution laps, so that kind of comes in the back of your mind of, I wonder if he's going to do a splash and go at the end of the race, or if he's really good to go to make it.
Angel Santiago is down, along with James Jones, Gene Cato. Zachary Woods almost hit the pit wall coming in as he smoked those right front tires quite a bit. Car did not want to turn left. Looks like that's Chris Corbeau and Ryan Phillips also on pit lane. That turns the race lead now over to the 3 of James Cato. Jaden Gimbel moves into second, so your 2 heat winners now hold the top 2 positions.
I'm going to tell you the 2 that are obviously keeping tabs on each other has to be James Cato and Jaden Gimbel. I mean, they have to know where each other are at the time. Because again, a lot of these guys, if you finish within range of them or just a little bit ahead of them, the points that you've gained from this heat definitely are going to aid you in the race.
It doesn't matter if it's a non-points or points event, the speeding police will catch you, so we'll try and find out if anybody coming onto pit road is going to get pegged for not maintaining the pit road speed. Like so far of the group that came down pit road, everybody adhered to the pit road speed. A little bit of an extended stay for the 57 of Clifford Corbeau, but it was not speeding related. Might have been just get a little bit of damage repaired. We're seeing a lot of drivers knock the outside wall down, a lot of right side damage. You got to wonder if they'd spend a little extra time on pit road, giving their cars a bit of TLC.
And that's the thing where this track is very kind of aerodynamic now, where you have to kind of make sure that a lot of these body panels are at least in somewhat of a kind of an air cutting shape, so you can at least make it around the track. Where, again, if you're a lap down or 2, I feel it's a little bit more useful right now just to go out, repair your car, and see what kind of positions you can gain.
Jeffrey Vickery, we saw him leaving pit road. Jonathan Leach into the attention of his crew. He has since left pit lane, and you see that white machine there, 3rd in your camera shot. That's DJ Daniel on fresh tires, and looks like we might have had someone have an issue pit road wise. Zachary Woods was on pit road 2 laps ago, and he is back down again.
I wonder if David Monspa is actually still under power. I'm seeing him coast around the inside of this track.
There he is. Yeah, very slow coming down pit lane.
Actually doesn't sound like that car's on, so I'm actually wondering if he ran it out of fuel.
He might have. I almost wonder if maybe a couple of these drivers might have missed their pit stalls. Osbaugh might have missed, had to go back around, and might have been the case there for Zachary Woods as well. He did not get hit with a speeding penalty. He came back out onto the racetrack, but now back down to the attention of his crew. I didn't check to see.
Christopher Reese. I think he may have spit on pit road. He smoked the tires coming in.
And from the 3rd position, Christopher Lawrence coming down behind him. Lawrence currently running off the lead lap. And boy, you talk about an untimely caution. If a caution were to come out right now, we've only got 6 drivers on the lead lap. Chris Papa, the last of those.
Absolutely. I'm kind of looking here to see if Reese may have gotten the speeding penalty. I don't think so right now. No, it actually does not look like Reese got a speeding penalty, so he is all good to go.
Jaden Gimbel from 2nd place, now on the pit lane. Mark Morton, I believe, is just now coming out of turn 4 and onto pit road. Very conservatively there, as he was down on the apron in turn 4. Some of these drivers willing to be aggressive onto pit road, others being very, very cautious. Gene Cato kind of in the middle there, as he was slowing on the just where that blue line exits off of turn 4, and he now comes down to the attention of his crew from the race lead.
You want the poster child of someone who's really pushing that pit road limit has to be Christopher Reese. And I saw him going around about 120 right before he hit that cone. Just locked at the brakes, barely got it under 60. He managed to get out without an itch.
And DJ Daniel just there took the lead back from James Cato. He had already unlapped himself before Jaden Gimbel and James Cato ducked onto pit road. So he is going to have a huge lead. Now back to the 2nd place driver, which is the 13 of Chris Papa. You talked about undercutting can gain you track position. lap 13 worked that to perfection.
Easily. I mean, just look at the gap between Christopher Papa and Angel Santiago. Santiago's just entering turn 3 right about now, and Christopher Papa's almost about crossing the line. So again, that undercut really helped him out, and he may be one of the threats to really kind of steal this race out from under him.
Daniel, Papa, Santiago, your top 3. James Jones right now in 4th. Battle is on for 5th between our 2 heat winners, Jaden Gimbel and James Cato. They're 5th and 6th. Gene Cato right now in 7th. Jonathan Leach holding down 8th place. And then Christopher Reese and Christopher Ruse. That is your top 10. Pretty decent run there for the 14 of Christian Ruse, as he was involved in a wreck back during the first heat race, I believe it was, on lap 2, and I think he got a piece of one of the early 2 cautions here in the main event as well, so good comeback run for him.
Absolutely. That really just shows that, hey, just because you get involved in one of these incidents, that's not game over. You can still fight your way back. And again, there's still a prize for 3rd place and 13th place, so it's not totally out yet.
Right now, after the green flag pit stop cycle is concluded, 11 drivers on the lead lap. Ryan Phillips will be the last of those. We still got 18 drivers that are out there on the racetrack. Drivers behind the wall, Matthew Robinson, TJ Roberts. And I actually just saw Josh Anderson pop back up on our telemetry, but he's still sitting on pit road. I mean, by all rights and purposes, he pretty much is out of the race as he is 60 laps down behind the race leader, DJ Daniel.
I think he may come back in if his car gets all repaired. Again, just out of a sign of, hey, let's just go right around and have a little bit of fun for the rest of the night. Obviously, your chances for a prize are kind of taken out, but but there's still that off chance that you could be eligible.
So now the question that we don't know is if these drivers can make it the rest of the way. They were able to use 2 caution periods earlier on in this race to be able to maybe save a little bit of fuel at 8 laps of pacing in those 2 cautions combined. DJ Daniel made his first pit stop at the halfway point of lap 50. So we don't know just how many laps he was able to save of fuel in that 50-lap run, or if he could just go the remaining 50 laps here to the checkered flag.
One of the guys that I'm kind of concerned whether he can actually make it to the end or not, it has to be 2nd place, Christopher Papa. I honestly don't know if he has enough to make it to the end, but it could have been he pitted right at his window and he thought he could make it all the way from the end from there. But again, that's going to be some mighty old tires by the time he reaches the end of the race.
If DJ Daniel can't make it, it'd be interesting to know just how short he is on fuel, because Angel Santiago and James Jones, they could go 1 lap further. Jaden Gimbel, he could go 6 laps further, and James Cato could go 7 laps further than the 96.
We just got to think, hey, if one of these top guys pits with maybe about 30 laps to go, I'd really be watching him. Because again, these cars on new tires, man, they just fly. I mean, we saw about a good 2 to a 1.5 seconds difference between these cars on old tires and new tires. So I'd be more or less kind of looking at these guys saying, if I had 30 laps of a brand new set of tires or everyone else is on tires that are continuously getting worse, I'd kind of like my chances.
DJ Daniel coming around this time will be 35 laps away from the checkered flag. Can the 3-time winner close out the All-Star Race win here tonight after a hardship run in the first heat race here this evening? We'll find out. Green flag pit stops have concluded. We'll see if we're running to the checkers. We'll be back in just a moment. You're not going to miss a thing. We're going to go FRN side by side here tonight in the Raise Energy All-Star Race at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flatout Racing Network.
ETE Reman, is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on the ultimate prize. Because the reward is well worth the risk. The 2021 NNSCRA Daytona 500, Saturday, February 20th, exclusively on Flatout Racing Network.
ETE Reman is the world's best remanufacturer of transmissions for import and domestic cars and trucks. Based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, our customers are repair shops, auto parts stores, dealerships, and distributors. And with 6 nationwide warehouses, we're where and when you need us. So when you're looking for a transmission that is like new, only better, instill confidence and install ETE Reman.
It's a road few dare to travel, a journey filled with danger and unpredictability. So why do we traverse this road? Why do we take such a gamble? Because if we don't try, we'll never know what we could have achieved. That's why we strap in, rev up, and fix our focus on.
We welcome you back here to Charlotte Motor Speedway, less than 30 laps away from the conclusion for the Raise Energy All-Star Race here for BackFire
Papa,
Sim
man,
Racing.
he is racing that thing. I've seen him about wreck off these last 3 corners.
And we've been watching him. We saw him during that side-by-side come down pit lane, put on a fresh set of tires, and as you mentioned, he is setting down some blistering lap times. He's only about 4 seconds behind Clifford Corbeau, and why that's important is because Corbeau right now is the first car 1 lap down, so it would put Papa in the free pass position should we get a late race yellow.
I think he's looking at every position matters because every point matters here at the moment. He's just trying to get himself within enough of a striking distance where, hey, if the worst does happen to James Cato and Jaden Gimble, that he's within striking distance to at least kind of maybe steal one of these things out from under him.
A couple of other things have been happening involve the Catos. We saw Gene Cato get the wall through the center of 3 and 4, pancake the right side of his machine. James Cato, on the other hand, he is anywhere from 0.4 to half a second, closing up the gap between himself and DJ Daniels. It's now down almost to 5 seconds between the two. It was 9 seconds when we went to the commercial break.
Absolutely. He's trying to run him down here. Still looking throughout the field. I'm still kind of shocked that Gene Cato is racing as fast as he fast as he currently is. Definitely with that hit to the outside wall out of 2, I figured it would have knocked at least a little bit more speed out of the car.
We were wondering with Chris Papa coming down pit road if anybody was going to be able to make it on fuel now. If that kind of called it into question. Just saw the 13 of James Jones come down to the attention of his crew. So I'm still on the fence on whether these guys can make it on fuel or not.
I don't know. Obviously, Christopher Papa was not going to be good on fuel to the end of the race. But I'm seeing James C. Jones on pit road. I think there's one more on pit road that I might have missed. Let you know that was Josh Anderson still on pit road.
And you've got Ryan Phillips here about to go a lap down. That is not what Chris Papa wants to see, because that now puts the 43 in the lucky dog position. Phillips not going to go away quietly, trying to battle back on the top side. Finally has to adhere to the leader off of turn 2.
I think a little bit more brain fade is kind of setting in for some of these drivers. I saw David Mospa kind of drive into the back straightaway wall. I think a lot of these drivers are just kind of trying to be focused on maybe maintaining fuel, saving fuel here and there, maintaining tires. I don't know.
Field has gotten really spread out here, too. You got to go back to around 7th place. This is your closest battle. There's the 48 of Jonathan Leach. Back behind him by about 10 car lengths is Christian Ruse. That's 7th and 8th place. 0.7 of a second separation. Most of the other drivers out there have anywhere from 3 to 4 seconds leverage between themselves and their closest competitor.
I'm still kind of seeing DJ Daniel here. I'm kind of wondering about his strategy as he almost got hit by, looks like the 2 car on the back, or sorry, the 21 of Jeffrey Vickery on the entrance of pit road. He comes in just fine.
So DJ Daniel, with 20 laps to go, is going to make what is potentially going to be his final pit stop of the night. Now it's the ball in the court of James Cato and Jaden Gimbel. Cato has been faster this run than the 96, but with only 20 laps to go, practically one of our 2 heats, if you will, left to go. Does James Cato have enough time, and does he have the strategy to close up the gap enough to be within striking distance of the 96 when we get to the end of this race?
I'm just telling you, a guy I really like right now. I have to kind of admire his strategy. It has to be Christopher Papa. And he is trying, and I give him credit where, listen, I don't know if he thinks he's faster than most of these guys in the field, but I mean, obviously he isn't as quick as some of these top guys, but he's trying to outthink him here.
Well, he just went around DJ Daniel coming off of pit road, so theoretically, when the pit stops cycle around, if everybody else has to come down before the conclusion, is Gene Cato coming down pit road this time. If Chris Papa can keep the 96 in his rearview mirror, he could very well cycle around to the race lead. There is 2.3 seconds between himself and that 96 car right now. So now the question is, you mentioned about him being on go as soon as he left pit road and went back onto the racetrack. Did he use up his tires too much to hold off the fresh rubber of DJ Daniel?
I think easily. Currently his tires about 15 laps old, and again, we saw how much he was hounding it. He was hot lapping out there, just trying to get as much distance as he could. I don't know if I really consider Christopher Papa a threat to win the race, but definitely with the cumulative points, it easily puts him in the conversation.
Saw Christian Ruse move into the top 5. He still has to come to pit lane, though. Got around Jonathan Leach. Clifford Corveau, the 57, is just now on pit lane, pitting from just inside of the top 10. As James Cato continues to lead. Now, what is the 3 strategy here? Is he waiting for a caution to maybe come out because he does have the 96 trapped a lap down at this point in time? Or is he thinking, run the laps, the slower laps now, come down, have the fresh rubber for the final few laps of this race, try and make the late race charge on the 96 then?
Personally, I think currently the 3 and the 12 are just waiting for each other to blink. Just trying to see who's going to blink first, and I think that'll really kind of decide the next few moves.
James Cato finished second unofficially in the first heat race and then was proclaimed the winner of the first heat race after DJ Daniel was served with a black flag. You see DJ Daniel going around our Heat 2 winner, Jaden Gimbel, who right now runs in the second position. We're waiting on at least 6 of our top 10 to come down pit lane for the final time tonight. Angel Santiago, Christopher Reese, Christian Ruse, and Jonathan Leach still have to come down pit lane here, as it's going to be 14 laps to go for James Cato. I don't know if you're Cato right now. I don't know if he's trying to maybe save some fuel to make it the rest of the way or not. Doesn't look like he's backing his pace down at all. I just have to wonder, how long can he wait?
It just depends. I don't know if he thinks he can make it all the way, or like you said, he's just trying to save fuel, but I don't know about that.
Now remember, he pitted 7 laps later than DJ Daniel did under the first round of green flag pit stops. So he could go another 2 laps should he choose to, if that is indeed how far they can go on a tank of fuel.
Well, that's a big question here. Easily earlier in the race when we had our first pit stops, a lot of these guys were in drafts. We had a lot of caution laps, kind of ate them. Now we kind of had a lot of racing going on. So I'd really be wondering how much fuel they still have left in the tank. And again, I'd be kind of looking at, hey, I see DJ Daniel going by me. I think I'd be trying to tuck up underneath him as long as possible, just trying to have him kind of pull me along some of these corners.
Christian Ruse just made a pit stop in the 14. Clifford Corbeau back down pit lane in the 57. And he still sits in his pit stall. I think this is an extended stay for the 57 cars, so tough break for him. As the battle might be closing up for second place here, Angel Santiago has been slowly reeling in the 12 of Jaden Gimbel. These two still, theoretically, have to hit pit lane before the conclusion of this race, however.
Absolutely. And Andrew Santiago is kind of a interesting party in this. Obviously, we could be entirely wrong with our estimates on fuel. It could still be around 40, 45 laps, but again, it's just amazing how much the racing's went on, how pretty much Angel Santiago's kind of hung tough.
And we talk about momentum here in this All-Star race for the playoff contenders heading into Chicagoland next week. I think this is a huge performance run for Angel Santiago, because down the home stretch, the final 2 or 3 races of the regular season, it just seemed like he was always in the wrong place at the wrong time. And right now, running in the 3rd position, that'll probably change by the time we get to the end of this race, but he will certainly finish up inside of the top 10, has had a strong car up in the top 6 or 7 all night long. Very strong run, very good momentum heading into the playoffs for him.
Again, any momentum helps. Just a good finish here, good finish there. You don't even have to win the race. Just something to get your season, pretty much just the playoff season, kind of started on a good note.
With the performances we've seen out of our top 2 right now, James Cato and Jaden Gimbel, Gimbel's only made 2 starts during the regular season. Cato, I believe, has made either 4 or 5 starts during the regular season. You kind of wonder, what if they had run the entirety of the schedule? These would probably be 2 drivers to be talking about as playoff contenders next week as well.
Absolutely. And except now I would kind of drive your attention back here where we're in finishing distance. You got to be looking at this where, all right, let's say James Cato wins the race and Jaden Gimbel finishes 2nd. Right now, they'd be tied on cumulative points. So I'd be kind of scratching my head here a little bit and wondering if the race finish will really be off of whoever wins this battle between the 2.
Oof, that'd be up to race control, and we would have to find out after the conclusion of this event. What I'm watching right now is DJ Daniel. He may be 23 seconds back, but he is running lap times anywhere from a full second to almost a second and 2/10 faster than James Cato. By my calculations, he might have enough time to get up there if these top 3-4 drivers continue to back down their pace trying to save fuel.
Well, you got to think an unfortunate event. Maybe Cato and Gimbel run out of fuel and they're forced to coast back to pit road. That could be huge for him.
As of right now, the drivers that are in the finishing positions that would get the Raise Energy prizes, James Cato leads, Angel Santiago in 13th, and Ryan Phillips right now runs in the 13th position. He's the last car 1 lap down, so you have to wonder if Christian Ruse, Jeffrey Vickery, some of those guys that are 1 lap down might try dropping back to him, and they try and battle to see who's going to finish 13th place. As Cato, 5.5 laps to go, his pace continues to be anywhere from 31.7 to 31.8, so he's still continuing to run consistent lap times. Obviously, nowhere close to the lap times he was running back during the first green flag run between the first and second round of green flag pit stops, so I think he's going to try and stretch it.
Easily, and just look at how much their lap times have dropped down. A lot of these guys, their best laps have been pulling around 23 or 29.3. And currently, a lot of these guys are almost running 32s. So that's a kind of a big red flag in my mind.
Well, James Cato tries to stretch it here to the finish in this all-star race. He has over 5.5 seconds back to Jaden Gimbel. More importantly, 20 seconds back to the fresh tires of DJ Daniel. 4 laps to go as James Cato is looking for his second win of the season. It would be his first non-points win as he took the checkered flag in the points race a couple of weeks ago at Texas Motor Speedway. So it would be his second trip to victory lane here this year in BackFire Sim Racing. Question is, can he make it on fuel? Where would be the opportune area to run out of fuel to make it back to the start-finish line? How far back can you be to be able to coast back?
Well, it's not the fact of how far back you can be. It's, how far is the guy behind you? And really, just, again, you could run out in the exit of 3 and still make it to the finish line without issue. But it's, again, that guy behind you, if he's at full power, he can just keep flying through this field. And, you coasting around and him at 180 is two different things.
Riding on board with the 3 of James Cato. Wanted to see just how much off the throttle time he's spending, and it doesn't look like it's too much. I thought maybe he might possibly be clutching or something like that, but it doesn't sound like he is.
No, actually, I'm looking at it. It looks like Cato is really clutching at the... Actually, it looks like he's really clutching through the entire corner. Oh, and the 48 of Jonathan Leach almost turned the 43.
That would have been right in front of the race leader. They were on the same straightaway.
I'm going to tell you, I think Cato almost had his heart drop there, saying, oh, man, that could have been so bad.
Well, he's going to get the white flag here, so it's race back to the checkers no matter what for James Cato. Looks like Angel Santiago could not make it to the finish on fuel. He was just on pit lane a lap ago, as less than 1.5 miles to go down the back straightaway for James Cato, who had to pull off the last to first challenge, and it looks like he's going to be able to do it. What a drive.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bet that I think he may have won this race just because they are tied on points, but I think he finished one position higher, or since he finished the highest position in the final race, it should be him.
He would have lost 1 point to Jaden Gimbel in the 2 heat races, since only 10 drivers participated in the first heat race, 11 drivers participated in the second heat race. To your point, finishing 1 spot ahead of Jaden Gimbel eliminates that bonus point. The 2 of them would be tied, and I would agree with you. The tiebreaker should go to highest finisher of the 2. So I think it's safe to say that James Cato is the official winner here tonight. Remember, it's not necessarily finishing position. It's based off of accumulated points from the heat races and the main event of the All-Star race. But Cato's going to come down and do some burnouts, so I think he's of the same mentality we are, that he is the official winner of the All-Star race here tonight.
Absolutely, and just an amazing rally for him, just how much he was able to save fuel on that final stretch. Looks like he was really clutching entering turn 1, or at least entering turn 1, 3, and kind of just letting it roll all the way to the exit and still maintaining that amazing lead.
Makes you wonder just how hard DJ Daniel was pushing it. If he would have been able to make it or not. Remember, he was 7 laps shorter on fuel than James Cato was after they completed that first round of green flag pit stops. So he would have had to do a lot more saving than Cato had. And it'll be interesting to see when we talk with Cato just how close he was to not making it here.
Absolutely. That's what I'm kind of curious. Obviously, I think we'll learn in post-race interviews, but that's what I'm most curious about.
As Cato continues to do his burnouts, and we understand that the points are being accumulated, and we will get the official word of your winner here tonight in just a mere moments. Let's take a look at the finishing results, and a couple of names that popped up there into the top 5 in the closing stages. How about the 62 of Christopher Reese up there in 3rd, and Jonathan Leach, who had some earlier issues. He's going to snag a top 5 here tonight.
Not bad at all. Now, we're still waiting for the official award on 3rd and 13th. Since I believe the prizes are also done with cumulative points as well, so we have to wait and see for official award from that.
Right now, if it is based off of finishing position, it would be Reese in 3rd, and I believe Kyle Gartner finished in 13th. But to your point, the cumulative points of those positions is who would end up getting those prizes, courtesy of Raise Energy. As we look through the remainder of the finishing results here tonight, Some of the drivers that found some hard luck early on in this race: Matthew Robinson, three-time winner, finishing out of the race in 19th. And a couple of these guys that finished in 20th and 21st, and TJ Robertson, Josh Anderson. A big reason for that was the whole shakeup of the format, with the fact that they started up towards the front in the 100-lap main event due to the further down in the running order performances they had in the heat races, maybe spots they weren't all that comfortable with, and it was what led to a couple of our early cautions as well.
Absolutely, and some of those are just the wrong place, the wrong time. But I think Gimbal battled back after that, almost being sent down in the pit road wall. So just an amazing recovery for him.
Let's see if we can talk with at least our third and second place finishers here. We're still waiting for the official word on who the overall winner is. You do believe it is going to be James Cato, but they're currently putting the points together, figuring it out, and we will give you guys the word once we get it. So let's see if we can talk with our third place finisher here tonight. Great run for Christopher Reese. Hey, Chris, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us? We'll see if we can try again here. Hey, Chris, guys up here in the FRM booth. You got us? All right, looks like we're having a little bit of trouble here.
But we did get the overall winners for the event. James Cato has been confirmed for the winner of the cumulative points, with Christopher Reese in second. Or actually, my apologies. James Cato in first, Gimbal in second, and Reese in third for overall winners.
There you go. So it is official. So technically, your top three in the running order are your top three in the cumulative points as well. Well, we talked with him after the win in the second heat, and he's going to finish second officially here in the All-Star race as well. Let's see if we can dial up Jay Gimbal. Hey, Jay, it's Matt and Seth up here in the FRM booth again. You got us?
I got you.
Well, man, so close to being able to pull off the sweep here tonight, a heat win and an overall All-Star race win. But after we saw you have that spin down pit road and kind of split the goalpost, if you will, a comeback run for you here tonight. And we talked about having to work your way through traffic. Looked like you did it pretty smoothly.
Yeah, that spin out was all skill, no luck at all. But yeah, overall had a great fun race with everyone tonight. Congratulations to James. Just didn't have the pit strategy he did. I had to go in a little bit earlier for fuel, and but I pretty much knew I was gonna run it out. And I remember him sneaking into pit road before that last or after that last caution that we had. A lap before we went green, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna come back to bite me. And I stayed out, and he was back 5 positions, and he ended up making his way up through there and actually being able to stay out a few extra laps. And I had to end up saving fuel as well. I was probably saving fuel for probably 5 laps there, and I knew that we had to run it out because I knew Pitton wasn't gonna be able to cut it. So yeah, had a fun time. Thank you guys out there in the booth tonight, and sure you're excited to talk to James. So thank you.
But don't leave yet. But obviously,
okay.
I got to ask, I mean, how close were you on fuel? Because that's what we were all kind of scratching our heads. I mean, how close you were on fuel, and any regrets? Maybe you could have pushed a little bit harder, a little bit less.
Yeah, I probably saved 2 laps too many. So I ran 2 laps where I should have just been going at it. But I mean, I didn't think it was gonna change my outcome. James is up there quite a bit, probably 5 or 6 seconds ahead of me at that point. So I knew it was second place, and I was fine with it. So on to next week.
Yeah, speaking of next week, I mean, we saw you run really well at Texas before getting involved in a late issue there. You run well here tonight, not only in the heat race, but the overall all-star race at Charlotte. If we look ahead at the schedule for the playoffs, you got Chicagoland next week, you got Kentucky, the penultimate race, and then, of course, the finale at Homestead. You're really good at the mile-and-a-half program, so what's the confidence level of having this 12 in victory lane in a points-paying event before the season comes to a close?
We're gonna need a lot of luck. I'm right there, but just can't get the ball to roll with me. So maybe one of these weeks we'll pull off a win and get the rest of the season going and maybe get some fire going for next season as well.
Well, congratulations on a great run tonight overall. Winner of your heat, second place here in the All-Star race, and get a little bit of prize money to boot there. We're going to now give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
I just want to thank the whole league as a whole. I can continue to want to race with you guys. It's not like it's bad group of guys. I mean, everyone's pretty friendly with each other. I haven't heard them argue once. So I've only been here 3 weeks. So shouts out to them and also you guys in the booth and Body Armor as well, rocking that scheme tonight. So thanks, guys.
That's Jay Gimbel, second place here tonight in the Raise Energy All-Star race. Congratulations and good luck on the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Now, we will be talking with James Cato in just a moment. I think we actually do have our third place finisher, Christopher Reese, available now for an interview. Hey, Chris, it's Matt and Seth up here in the F4M booth. You got us? I thought we had him here. Let's see if we could
He's
try
just a little
again.
shy.
Yeah, Chris, you got us up here? I'm not sure if he's trying to talk and we can't hear him or what the case is here, but unfortunately we're not able to hear him right now. So we'll see if we can touch base with him in just a moment. So I guess we'll go down to Victory Lane and talk with not only the race winner, but the overall cumulative points winner here tonight as well, James Cato. Hey, James, it's Matt and Seth up here in the booth again. You got us?
10-4.
All right, we talked to you about that last to first challenge. You ended up being declared the winner of the first heat, but subsequently had to start at the back for the main event. We knew your car was really good on the long run. We just didn't know how good. But the big burning question we got to ask is, how many more laps did you have to go before that thing was going to run out of fuel?
I ain't 100% sure how many more laps I had in it. I really was just saving so I'd have. I knew I was good to make it to the end, so I was really just saving to do a little bit of a burnout. It'd have been real close had I not saved, but there just wasn't no point in pushing it there towards the end.
Yeah, I've got to ask a little bit. Were you tempted by any of these undercut strategies, any of these short pit strategies? Because I was looking at how Christopher Papa was kind of doing those short pit strategies, and it looked like it could have had a little bit of an advantage if it was timed a little bit better. Were you thinking of anything like that?
Quite the opposite, actually. I've found from my experiences, short pitting doesn't help out a lot on iRacing just because the person with the fresh tires, the last person with fresh tires seems to always pull out the advantage. So that's what I try to look for. Run as long as I can. Plus, when you short pit it, you take the risk of getting a caution and getting caught a lap down. You just never know what could happen.
Now, James, we obviously saw that this race kind of went into two different ways. We had the early cautions, and then we went into the long green flag runs. And once those long green flag runs began, drivers were able to figure out how their race car handled in traffic, just how much faster they were compared to others around them, and of course, as well, pit strategy. But you had to start at the back. You had to make your way through two early multi-car incidents. So at what point did you have to did you get the opportunity to be able to stop having your head on a swivel, as it were, and be able to kind of settle into a strategy race?
I'd say probably somewhere around lap 20, 30. Field got strung out a little bit, and typically these mile and a half, once the field gets strung out like that, you have long green flag runs. So after we went back green, I think it was on lap 10, 11, somewhere around there. I kind of just chilled out for a little while, and once I felt it was safe enough, I started coming through there.
Well, congratulations on the victory here tonight, James. Not only winning the heat race, but sweeping here tonight with the overall All-Star race win as well. We're going to give the opportunity now for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Zach, David, my dad, Gene, Spin Move Racing for letting me on the team. Buck Kicker, Blackgate Security, Splash and Go Graphics, AJ's Hot Shots, Sim Shots, Junior's Mobile Detailing, JKR Motorsports, Auto Ventures, that Chris and everybody that works on this league for putting it on, you guys for broadcasting it. All my other buddies that's watching right now, I'd like to give a shout out to Joe and Marcus and Gavin. The good Lord for letting us do this.
That's James Cato. A couple of weeks ago, he took the victory at Texas. Tonight, he burns it down in the All-Star race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Congratulations, James, and we look forward to seeing if he can pick up a couple other wins here during the playoffs down the home stretch.
Yeah, we're going to try. We'll see what happens. Never know what the future is going to hold.
And we found out that apparently our third place finisher, Christopher Reese, whenever we move him in here for an interview, his Discord decides that it doesn't want to work. So that's unfortunate. We would have liked to have been able to hear from him.
Let me see what we can do.
All right.
Let's try this for giggles.
Let's see if this works here. Chris, you got us? Matt, you don't have the magic touch.
I had to try.
All right, so yeah, looks like. Oh, let's see if. Well, looks like we still aren't
Hey,
able. To get
technical
him.
difficulties plague everyone.
Trying to see if we can figure out a way that we can be able to get this interview in here. I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to though.
Can you hear me, guys?
There
we go.
We have made contact. Chris, third place run here tonight, man. And it was kind of interesting because I didn't notice you were up inside the top 5 until we were about at 20 laps to go. I mean, you kind of crept your way up in there.
Well, I'm a more of a long run guy, so that's why I try and do the whole way. And I just happened to get lucky there when guys started running out of fuel. I knew I was good to go to the end.
And now it's like we've lost Matt. So I'll ask you a second question. You know, obviously, we know that you weren't unfortunately able to make it into the playoffs, but for a non-playoff contender to be able to have a good performance here tonight, what does that do for your psyche and for your momentum heading down here into these final 5 races of the season?
Oh, anytime whenever you get into a group of guys like this in a bigger field, you can have a good finish at the end is a good thing. It always helps pump you up a little bit and make you realize that you can run with these guys.
Now, we saw that tonight's race, it started out a little bit chaotic, a couple of early cautions. Then we settled in the long green flag run, and by the time we got to the end of the race, we were talking fuel strategy, who could make it and who could not. You came to pit road 1 and 2 laps, respectively, behind the guys that were in front of you. Just how much further could you have gone on what you had in the tank?
I had another 2 laps of fuel left.
So if we ended up seeing this thing go into a green-white checkered, might have been talking to you in victory lane. Man, a great run for you tonight nonetheless, though. We end up seeing that you were kind of back in the eye of the storm for those first 2 cautions, so good job on getting through those. Matt's back. Let me see if he's got any question for you.
No, sir. Not anything at the moment.
All right, so then we'll turn the microphone over to you, Chris. Let you do some sponsors, thank yous, and shout-outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Refab Inc. and, of course, Blackgate. Guys on the cars, CTAC Photo and Design, the guy who does my paints on my cars. I always think he does a real good job, and they're always pretty and shiny for me until I wreck them at least. I gotta give a shout out to my wife. She's always there putting up with me doing this constantly. And of course to BackFire Sim Racing for hosting this deal, and you guys for putting on a good show for us.
That's Christopher Reese. He brings it home P3 here tonight in the Raise Energy All-Star Race. Congratulations there, Chris, and best of luck here in the remainder of the season.
Thank you, guys.
And finally, as the dust settles here tonight in Concord, North Carolina, James Cato emerges your winner of the All-Star Race. Some chaotic heats to start this thing off here, Matt. No cautions to be able to bunch everybody back up. Little bit of a chaotic start, but man, this was typical Charlotte in terms of the fact that we went into a long green flag run. It came down to questioning, who had the fumes to get back to the start finish line when the checkered waved.
Just kind of taking this into a little bit of further consideration. I mean, just looking towards next week, there's some guys that I can obviously tell who are going to be kind of on a little bit of a high note. obviously has to be our race winner, and then I get late, but I'm looking back and I'm kind of seeing DJ Daniel. I mean, again, he was fast all night, but that kind of black flag from the heat race and just not being very fast at the end of the race and having to pit late, that definitely didn't aid his strategy. And I actually want to point out Josh Anderson. I mean, 2 wrecks, same corner, same pretty much same race. I mean, that doesn't do well in the confidence. So it'd be kind of nice to see if those guys can pick it back up for next week.
If I look at our previous schedule of tracks that these drivers have been to so far this year, maybe the closest comparison to Chicagoland next week is Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where these guys visited in race number 2, DJ Daniel, the winner of that race. And again, as we touched on, it's not going to be a round of 12, a round of 8, and then a final 4. It's going to be 4 races, Chicagoland, Iowa, Talladega, and Kentucky, and we whittled the field down from 16 to the final 4 after those 4 races. So the pressure is on for these guys now.
Absolutely. And it's kind of like having a timer go down. And again, you just don't want to be outside the top 4 when the music stops. You want to be at least one of those guys who are in that conversation.
Well, folks, we're going to find out how the playoffs will start as next Friday night we begin the postseason for 16 drivers that locked themselves in after last week's race at Daytona. Chicagoland green flag next Friday night, going to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next time you'll see us, we're going to be Sunday night bringing you the throwback evening at Darlington for the Clutch Drop Cup Series. Going to be interesting to see what throwback schemes are going to take to the Lady in Black, the track too tough to tame. But Matt, no points on the line here tonight, just prize, purse, and a special prize from Raise Energy for these drivers. It was a good all-star race. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
I'll always appreciate you leaving the door unlocked and let me crawl back in.
And thanks to everybody that tuned in tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here in the Raise Energy All-Star Race for BackFire Sim Racing. For Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Join us next Friday night as the playoffs begin here at Chicagoland. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.